let's talk about some of the films that this block made up. So if I can get the filmmakers, since there are so many of you guys for this block, come on down and stick around. Let's do a Q&A. Thanks for staying up late for us. Hopefully, I've seen Bloody Bridget twice now and did not realize that the end credits went on as long as they did. So I watched all of that stuff with you guys. So some of it. So Jamin Mears is the writer-director on the short film Static, which is our first ever music video. So give it up for him. It's not very often that I love music. Music has always been a big part of my passion. Can you kind of talk about, there's an art to really storytelling when it comes to music videos. Can you kind of talk about bringing back that almost 80s, 90s style of storytelling?
Yeah, I do a fair amount of music videos now. Most of the time it's like four guys jamming out in a warehouse. So when the artist from the band for this music video, Farewell Fortune, approached me, he said he wanted to do something different and do something that's just totally story driven, no performance, which I thought was really cool. He wanted to do sci-fi, which I thought was really cool. And he wanted it to be about a story about a father and a daughter. So that was kind of like where the thought and idea for this film started. And then from there, I just kind of went back to my office and started crafting it from there. But yeah, exciting to be able to put together a music video like that, where it's really not performance driven at all, but more story driven.
Now I know something that a lot of people in this room don't know about the Static is that it is actually the first of hopefully a longer story.
Yes.
How many are you guys planning, and where do you guys kind of hope to take the story with future installments?
So altogether 3. Don, the artist, music artist, Farewell Fortune, is currently working on an outline for a story for the follow-up to Static. So that I think we should start working on that this year, maybe for at least next year.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm pulling up notes right now, so
sure.
Bear with me here. Give it up for Jamin real quick here. All right, so Greta and Jake, it's been a long day. I'm blanking on both your last names, so.
That's fine. Greta and Jake.
Greta and Jake. Yeah, so you guys are the directing duo behind the film The Tooth, and this is the first time we've ever, in our festival's history, ever had dual directors. Can you guys kind of talk about some of the challenges of kind of being a collaborative team versus just a singular vision?
Absolutely. I mean, we also co-wrote it together. The Tooth is actually proof of concept for a feature we've also co-written called Baby Teeth. A lot of teeth, I don't know why. And I think we kind of realized, this is our second short that we've directed together, that together we make up one complete director. We kind of pick up the slack where each other not lets it down, but I don't know, we just slot together in this very cool way in terms of pre-production, and then on set we just meshed really well together. And I think the first time going into it with our first short, we weren't sure, because I feel like there's this idea with the director, there's a very singular vision, but no, it was a very, very symbiotic experience, at least for me.
Yeah, no. And it's nice because Greta also does the music, which I think is amazing, but it kind of allows me to take a step back while she handles something that's very intimately her own part of the process, which, so it's nice we kind of figure out how to share the load, and it makes it even more collaborative than filmmaking already is for us.
So out of all 3 filmmakers here tonight for this Q&A, you guys are the ones that I feel like have the most themes of mental health, whereas The Tooth was just a really interesting short film because it essentially took this concept of a repressed memory basically being reignited by current day trauma. How did you guys kind of explore that and were able, can you guys talk about capturing that theme and kind of, I mean, you guys did an incredible job with it.
Thank you. So, I mean, obviously, since it is a proof of concept, everything is expanded on after the fact. But when we wrote the full script first, and then when we wanted to shoot the proof of concept, the first 7 pages or so of the feature were kind of like perfect for that. It was a very small encapsulation of this idea of like this memory that she's, you know, kind of buried deep inside, and then is resurfacing and caused this very traumatic moment. So it just kind of ended up working, because we had a fully developed feature that, you know, kind of goes through all of this stuff. And when we were looking at it, we were just like, oh, well, it's all right there in those first couple of pages. So it was a lot more subconscious than I think we were expecting. And we did the hard part with writing the feature, and then going back and looking at those first couple of pages and being like, oh, okay, that's sort of like a microcosm of this larger story that we want to tell later on.
I mean, that was essentially what I was going to say. But I think coming to terms with the fact that I believe it is the first 7 pages of our feature script ended up working so well as a proof of concept, something in a way that we didn't even realize. I noticed a lot of the time that when people watch it, sometimes their takeaway is, I have no idea what happened, I didn't understand that at all, which, you know, being a filmmaker, you take it with a grain of salt, but other people completely, immediately understand, and I think that's just something that the pervasiveness of grief and guilt and the way that those kind of combine together, and I think that's something that really hits home with people, so I hope it hit home with some of you, and if it did, I'm sorry also.
I'm a lot more intrigued now coming in to know that this is a rather proof of concept rather than just a standalone short film, and I'm very scared to kind of understand the character journey. So thank you guys. Give it up for Greta and Jake. And last but not least, we have Haddid Bezama, right? Bezama?
Yes.
I'm terrible with names, I'm sorry.
No.
So what did you guys think about Zombies Are Real? So I don't know if you guys know this or not. This was the world premiere, correct?
Wow.
So we were very lucky. I was fortunate enough to see this very early on in our programming process for this year, and you were one of the very first shorts that I walked away with, and I was in 100%.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, can you kind of talk about bringing taking the familiar, because there's a lot of references to Terminator, I Am Legend. Can you kind of talk about taking those classic pop culture moments and then kind of reinventing something new?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much, and thank you for all watching the film. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So, essentially what happened was the story of Sherman Stokes was me back in my 20s, obsessed with films, movies, pop culture, stuff like that, and I sort of dissociated from the world that I didn't really want to face, reality of growing up and taking on responsibilities. So that's what Sherman is doing. He's sort of making the fiction world his reality, and substituting. That's what I was doing. I sort of would escape into movies, and I would try to take on those personas on myself and try to make my life like a movie until I realized that I could just make movies and live vicariously through that.
It's very often, I think we've not programmed a whole lot of comedy here. So I am familiar enough with the brilliant audience here to know what comedy is going to work and what comedy doesn't. And there's a lot of B movies, comedy that just hits. Can you kind of talk about influences for writing and kind of bringing that just over the top, not serious, it just works?
Oh, thank you. I'm sure you guys know about Evil Dead. That was
Yes.
something I watched as a kid. Army of Darkness was the first one I watched. I had no idea what that was. I didn't know how to feel about it watching it. I was like, is this supposed to be scary? Is this supposed to be funny? I wasn't really sure how to feel. And I really liked that, and I sort of wanted to incorporate that sort of vibe into it with this film and other films also. I kind of want the audience to kind of be in on it, that we're all sort of movie fans, and we're sort of living out that fantasy also.
So my last question, and then I'll turn it over to anybody that has any questions in there. Specifically, you brought up Sherman's just kind of disassociation. and kind of like the depression that, you know, talking about the mental health even in a comedy is one of those things that sometimes we become so disassociated, and that we, until like there's a moment in reality that we actually have to step back into. And that's unfortunate with what happens with Sherman, you know, girlfriend becomes a zombie,
Right.
as the story goes. Can you kind of talk about bringing that autobiographical and that vulnerability to the character of Sherman?
Oh yeah, like I said, it was me. I was in a bad relationship. I didn't want to kill my girlfriend, but I definitely wanted to break up with her. But I'm the kind of guy who doesn't want to be the asshole and break up with someone and hurt someone's feelings. So it's always been easier for me to kind of make the other person break up with me. I'm fine with being the brokey, not the broker. So that's one of the things. Also, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. For my entire life, I thought I was going to maybe join the military, the Air Force. I was in ROTC. It just makes sense because my family was into that. But it really wasn't something I was passionate about. And then I got into psychology and criminal justice, and I was like, I'm going to be like Hannibal Lecter. I'm going to like, you know, profile serial killers. And then I started reading a lot of case studies, and I was like, this is really brutal, and it's really making me bummed out, and I don't want to learn more about, you know, all these terrible things happening. So I was kind of lost. So I'm finishing college, and I've got all this student debt, and I'm just like, what am I going to do in my life? Because I'm not going to go and be a therapist or a forensic psychologist. I didn't like any of the people that I went to school with in my classes. I was like, oh, there's no way I would talk to these people about my feelings. So it was that point where I was just sort of like lost, and I didn't know what to do with my life. And zombies movies were something like that was just a big part of my life. And meeting George Romero at a Comic-Con, not a Comic-Con, it was Dragon Con in Atlanta, gave me some advice about pursuing my passion of making films, and encouraged me to do that. And so that's what I did. And I went on made my own movie. I wrote a script, and I met a bunch of people at school, and they were really influential and supportive of my vision for that film. So that's how it came to be.
That's awesome. This movie is a wild ride. It's a great comedy, and I wish all three of you guys further festival circuit success. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask? Josh.
Is it Jamin?
Yes.
You said you really like doing like narrative-driven music videos. Are there any big ones that are really inspirational to you that you love or that are favorites of yours?
Music videos?
Yeah.
Let's see, probably one of my favorite music videos is, what's the name of it? Now I can't remember the name of it. I'm drawing a blank on it. It's All Directions by Sunlux.
Okay.
Is just a great music video. I think that's another one that's very story driven. Yeah, I mean that's at this moment that's probably my favorite music video that I've seen recently. So yeah.
Anyone else? Yes.
For Zombies Are Real, when did you make that movie? When did you make it?
That movie was made in 2011,
Okay.
actually.
Wow,
We went through a couple editors, didn't really come together. It was a finished product, didn't really show anybody, I wasn't really happy with it, but I didn't know what to do with it. So it just kind of sat on my computer for a very long time. Then my executive producer here, Mike Trottola, pretty much gave me a kick in the ass. Was like, you need to do something with this. I'm showing a girl and trying to impress her. Make this better. And I took that challenge, and I sent it back to him. I did some color correction on it. And he was like, no, like really work on this. Like, come on, you can do better than that. And so I was like, okay, I'll take that challenge. And you know, looking back at it after all these years, you know, a lot more experience in filmmaking. I took that experience and I put it towards the film. It was really hard because I didn't have the original footage. I had to take the original movie cut and then cut it and then add music back in and sound effects and stuff like that. And every time I'd show him, he challenged me to make it a little bit better. And you know, that's really what happened after all those years. And then, you know, he was really happy with it. He's a really critical kind of guy. He's not going to just tell you what you want to hear. So when he liked it, I was like, oh shit, like I think I might have something here. And he encouraged me to enter film festivals through Film Freeway, which I'd heard about, but I didn't really know about. And so I started doing that, and you guys picked us up, and this is where we are today. So. thanks to him for encouraging me to keep going.
That's crazy that that movie is that old.
Yeah,
It doesn't even look like it.
It was a lot longer, but like I was telling you earlier, there's a lot of dated jokes in there that just would not land now, like Catherine Heigl jokes, Oprah jokes. I was like, I gotta cut that out. It makes no sense now. But yeah, so I was just really blessed to be able to come back and have an audience. I mean, that's really the best part about it, is having actually, you know, a bunch of strangers, no offense, strangers come in and watch the film. I spent a lot of time on, and I was really passionate about it. And it really encourages me to continue on with my career in filmmaking. So thank you all.
Well, hopefully this isn't the last time we see some of your work on our
Yeah,
screens. So, we have any other questions? Josh.
If the tooth is a proof of concept for a feature, you gotta bring the feature back here, right? Like submit it for.
We would love to
Okay.
one day, hopefully, yeah.
Features take a lot of time and energy, I've learned, in the independent sphere, so I get it.
We're working on it.
Maybe we'll get an update, you know,
Yeah.
a few months.
Next year, I'm sure.
Next year, yeah.
Crank that out really quick.
All right, well, give it up for these guys one more time, Jamin, Greta, Jake, thank you guys.